so many people. And Czech Republic produced weaponry and not only munitions, I think it was munitions, but armored vehicles for sure for the Reich. And all the nations, whether they liked to or not, whether their population was for or against, the governments did work together, whether they had to or not, and they marched on our territory. And they'll say, well, remember Molotov-Ribbentrop. Well, I understand in psychology people remember the first and the last thing, and they tend to forget what happened in the middle. But guess what? There's the Munich Accords or agreements, and there's a whole bunch of agreements that were signed between various European nations and Nazi Germany at the time. But nobody seems to remember those. Nobody remembers those. Nobody remembers that Poland invaded Czechoslovakia along with Nazi Germany at the same time. So
people want to believe what they want to believe, and right now the media mob and the media machine is making it so easy to just focus on the things that, they want you to focus on, and just to see what is there. And I agree with you that I think the Russians are losing in the media battle and the marketing battle of this whole thing. And it is definitely a front in this war. And I wish that it was different, but at the same time, I can't help but think that this is just the Russian way. We are made of different dough in that the marketing is not as important as the substance. And the Russian fairy tales, like they say, like the good guy, the focal point of the story, Ivan, like in the fairy tales, what's his name? Yemela. Like he's laying in the house, he's laying around, not doing anything. And the idea is, well, the good fate is going to find me I don't need to go and seek it out. Like, the marketing in the marketplace, like, the things that are being advertised are probably crap because you have to advertise them, and the good thing is going to find its own customer. You know what I mean? So I think it's like the Russian way, and it's unfortunate because in today's world, and raised in America, and knowing the value of marketing and that's the way things move, it really bums me out. No, but
well, I mean, just to paint a better picture, private companies in Russia do marketing very well. Kind of
true,
but it's the government
no,
itself.
they do.
Yeah, the government itself doesn't really understand that presenting a booklet of facts to somebody living out west is gonna lose their attention almost immediately. After a couple of seconds, they'll say, no, I don't want this. This is too much. You're giving me all this factual information. Where's my emotional content?
That's exactly what my American friends said, because I said, go watch or read Putin's speech, which is the 40-minute history lesson about, the UA-Russia conflict, because it does go back to many, many hundreds of years ago, and it has its reason for being the way that it is. And she looked at me, she's like, what? You expect me to listen to a 40-minute speech about history in Eastern Europe? And it's like, what do you say to that? And it's, again, going back to my favorite soapbox about lack of education, because, I don't remember if I told you, but I remember when I was a little girl, in my history class, they're showing us, back in the day, they didn't have computers or TVs. Like they had some sort of a film camera, something that was projected onto the screen. And they were showing us something having to do with World War II. And they said the breaking point in World War II was, of course, what?
Stalingrad.
D-Day. No, that's the problem.
What?
Of course, no. In American children, in middle school or whatever, middle school, they say that the breaking point in the war was D-Day, when the U.S. troops went to the coast of what do you call it? France.
Normandy.
Normandy. Thank you. Yeah, and this is where I don't even know. I mean, here's little me, like 5 feet tall, and I stand up and I'm like, Ere, this is not right. Stalingrad is the breaking time in the war, because by the time the little history knowledge that I know, like by the time D-Day happened, everything was already pretty much figured out. It was just carrying it out to the end. And my history teacher, he looked at me. I mean, most kids didn't even know why we're having this fight, but that's the problem. The problem, education.
it,
And
it's
this is what I
amazing. It's amazing that that history professor, I mean, he's a history professor, that he's saying that that was the turning point. That's absolutely insane. When it's not
But
even.
it's true. This is how they teach them. They don't say anything about what happened pre-war and who paid for what in the pre-war. And by the time, United States joined the war, what happened with all those, with the money flow and what was convenient when. I'm trying to be careful here. These kinds of things are not advertised because it's not for the common man to know. And D-Day is the breaking point in the war, and without the American troops, there would be no victory, which very well may have been the case, but there were many other forces in play.
No,
So
at the time, that was definitely not the case for one particular reason, and it's historically proven that that was actually the turning point of
for
when
sure.
the Nazi army in Stalingrad was surrounded and cut off from supplies, and then surrendered, and afterwards it was a march onto Berlin that
Yeah.
was completely unstoppable with the conventional weapons that existed and the will to fight and everything like that. But we're going back in history, and we're going to lose a couple of people here because, again,
No, I'm
history is
actually
boring.
that's right. No, I actually wanted to wrap it up. As you can hear, somebody's doing some remodeling, so it's drilling above my head. But I think what we're being accused of a lot, Russians are being accused of right now, of being very militant and bloodthirsty, which could not be further from the truth. I strongly believe that this whole situation in Ukraine is happening to prevent a bigger conflict. And as terrible as any loss of human life is, I think that sometimes, you need to go through some painful things in order to avoid bigger problems. And I'm praying to God that that's the case.
If we were bloodthirsty, why would we have to go to Ukraine to do so? Ukraine, UA to do so, when we have whatever we have 2.5 or so million people from Ukrainians who live here as refugees, and they have been. What is the point of us going to another? But there's, besides, if we really want to go into geopolitics and everything like that, the danger to Western society from Russia right now is actually it's quite legit if you really think about it, because what's happening here is the system that was established in Bretton
Yeah. We
Woods.
can talk about
Yeah,
that.
we can.
It has to do
Yeah,
with money. This
exactly.
I agree with you. Well, let's maybe leave that for a different conversation.
Mm.
But this whole bloodthirsty thing, I wanted to end on this note. I'm sure that you know this poem, "Хотят ли русские войны?"
Hmm.
Do Russian people want a war?
Hmm.
And I just wanted to read a few lines of that because I think that's such a poignant and such a I mean, I usually can't get through it in Russian without crying because it just hits, it hits you in the heart. But for all those Western people that will be watching this and that will think that Russian are blood hungry, bloodthirsty people, I mean, this really, I think, nails it. Do Russian people want a war? Just ask the silence that did fall over the vast plowed fields and leas, the birches and the poplar trees. Do ask the troops who've lost their lives and still beneath the birches lie, their sons who let you know once more if Russian people want a war. And it goes on for four different paragraphs like that. And it talks about the wives and the children and the mothers and the working people and all kinds of people that suffer in war. And I truly hope that people understand that Russian people are not out there to recreate Soviet Union. They're not there because Russia has plenty of land. Russia is not there to capture other peoples because that's not the goal. If those people don't want to be part of the civilization, that's fine. But there are things that Russia will stand for, that it needs to protect their own land and their own people. And I think at the end of the day, all people are people, and we need to stay that way, and we need to be human to each other. Because I just see so much hatred towards Russian, even from Russians living abroad,
Hmm.
the ones that, are somehow now for UA and they're hating on their own. Let's all be human. Let's all be human to each other.
Jane, you know that there's a positive aspect to this whole hatred. You know what
Tell
it
me.
is?
Mm.
We're not inherently lazy people, but we need our ass kicked sometimes to get
True.
going. So here's what's going to happen with these, sanctions and isolation and everything. The longer they continue, and you as a
Hmm.
business woman, you understand this just like I do. European companies that decided to leave because they are, part of this cancel culture, okay? When they leave, they're going to come back to a different landscape because the demand is there and the supply is gone, at least partially. But the supply is sourced from other countries that don't actually, put any sanctions on us because they see this in the same way we do. So what's going to happen is that there's going to be a whole bunch of Russian companies and people who see this opportunity and who are going to take over the market. And European companies and American companies are going to be losing market share in the future because Zara says they want to, Inditex says they want to come back.
Oh, they
Guess,
do already?
guess who I'm not buying from ever again is Inditex. IKEA,
There's plenty of
yeah,
people that can produce the same crap.
yeah, IKEA said that they want to come back because they've put a lot of money into logistics centers and warehouses and everything. Guess what,
Wow.
IKEA? We have our own.
Shocking.
Yeah, you're disappearing there for a second.
Sorry, sorry.
Yeah, we have our own furniture manufacturers, many of them. Okay.
I hope that all of that, is revitalized. And did you see today that the percentage, what is it? The borrowing rate has been dropped to 14 degrees. It started at 20 at the beginning of the military operation. It went to 17 today. It was dropped down to 14. So, I mean, it needs to be significantly lower to
Mm-hmm.
be
Mm-hmm.
actually worth borrowing cash.
Mm-hmm.
Because at these rates, it's only drug dealers that can actually, make a profit.
Yeah.
but slowly but surely, God willing, we can talk about economics because I'm writing a dissertation on the subject of competitiveness of Russia and what it was and what it will be and how it compares to other countries. So we can talk about that separately. But I just really hope that you're right in that the not the lazy, but it's like the other side of just being so wealthy. It's like when you have so much in terms of resources, do you really need to bust your balls?
No,
You really don't.
it's not.
You
It's
need to
not
just
that.
like this much.
It's not that. We are actually truly free as apart from many other people living in the West, and people are gonna disagree with me, but you probably will understand this. If you go to a Russian person and you tell him, here's X amount of money, a lot of money, a big bag of money, do this for me. If the Russian person doesn't want to do that because we have dignity, or even if we don't have much, but we just don't feel like doing it that day, forget dignity. We're not going to do it. That is being
Well,
truly free.
it's very pragmatic because if you're not up to your eyeballs in debt, then you have that choice to make.
Yep.
Like if your apartment is paid off, if you are not owing anybody any money on your car, and if you have a little bit of credit card debt, let's just say,
Mm-hmm.
which has gotten higher over the last let's say decade or two.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, people are buying their new whatever TV and going into credit. But if that's the only thing that you owe to the world out there, how much are your basic costs? It's just the eating and the drinking and keeping the lights on and the internet. It's not that much money.
But it's not even about the money, it's the mindset.
Right.
This
So
is yeah.
but you can afford it. You can
Mm-hmm.
say, screw it. I don't need it because it requires, me going and working too hard and I don't want to do it. So
Mm-hmm.
most people in the West can't afford it, but you're right. It's a different mentality. It's a different paradigm.
It's
People think of the world in different terms when they see it like that.
of course
Versus in the
yeah.
West, it's like somebody says jump, you say how high.
Yeah.
I'll do anything for that cash.
Yeah, and again here, we do. Of course, there's people who are in debt. Of course, there's people who want to get as much money as possible and who are working very hard. Yeah, that's true. But there's a very different relationship with money in this country, and I hope it doesn't become the same way as it is in Western countries, because you're not truly free then. If you don't have a
No.
choice, if you always have, if someone brings you a bag of money and they say, hey, go eat that piece of, that just came out of that cat or that dog, and you're going to say, oh, for that amount of money, I'll do so because, well, money's money. See, Russians, the mindset of the general population is not like that, and that's my opinion. But I've heard other people say the exact same thing, that this is why a person, a Russian, okay, or a nationality living within the borders of Russia is actually truly free in this way, because we can say the Russian word "po," you get what it is, and we're not going to do
Yeah,
it just because someone else is asking us to do it. It comes with its pluses and its minuses, but that's my opinion. See you
it's
in the
true.
comments below if that's incorrect.
Whoa, my phone. Sorry.
It's all
My
right.
phone couldn't stand the pressure.
Nah. Well, either way, if there's anything, I know you wanted to talk about a little bit about maybe people from different countries living in Russia and in Moscow right now and what they're going through. If you wanted to talk about that, go ahead. If you want to finish this off and have this
I just
conversation at
wanted
another time, we
to
can.
I just wanted to say that in Russia there are a lot of people that left, the
Hmm.
foreigners that left, but at the same time, the ones that stayed, I mean, that's something again, talking about the Russian personality, Russian spirit, whatever, that's so difficult to identify. I mean, it's difficult to maybe believe it for the people out, in the Western countries, but there's no hatred in Russia towards anybody. People from UA, people from Western countries that are sanctioning, to the people, the Americans. I mean, honestly, there's no hatred. People are just as inquisitive about those cultures as they ever have been. They are bummed that they're not able to travel. They they are very sorry, like in a compassionate kind of a way, about the bloodshed and the unfortunate things that are happening to innocent people because of the decisions of the politicians and the fascist groups that are NIZIs that are ruling the show over there. But there's no hatred, and I wish that that was more seen out in the West, because I think if there was that hatred, I wouldn't feel as comfortable here.
Hmm.
And I do, because I think people are kind generally. No, if somebody is showing some sort of hatred, others look at him like, "What, are you weird?" You know what I mean?
Yeah, usually it happens in comments online. So,
Yeah, but like in just human interaction,
no,
day
yeah,
to
human
day,
interaction, no, not at all. I mean, my wife is Bulgarian, and she
right?
she works here, and her colleagues absolutely adore her, and they have a lot of fun. My friend is married to my other friend. She's Russian. He's French. Same thing. I mean, it's people think that some people may think that foreigners here are going to be like
No.
hung. No, in fact, yesterday I was playing. Yeah, understand this. Yesterday, well, every week I play football on Thursdays,
Uh-huh.
and I play with all Armenians, and a lot
Mm-hmm.
of them wear Russian jackets with Russian symbols, the flag, Russia on the back. And yesterday, because it's an indoor field, yesterday there were a bunch of people playing next to us, and they were all speaking Spanish. They were from some kind of Latin American country based on how they looked and their accents
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
everything. And there's a lot of them there. They were out just freely playing football, having a very good time. Complete foreigners. No one came over and started doing anything to them because they're foreigners. So it that's the thing. It's like and we can finish this off, but we just want to be left alone from any foreign
And we want to
powers.
be friends. We want to be friends. We don't want somebody to be doing evil things to us and backstabbing and going in, somehow talking to other people behind our backs and doing all this drama and whatever. Humans are humans, and people want to be, learning of each other's cultures and traveling, and nobody shows any of this hatred. But this being left alone business, I think, is like the last resort. If you don't want to be friends, fine, leave me alone. But I
If you
think
if you don't want to leave me alone and you want to poke the bear, this is what you get.
Yeah, that's right. And of course, there's Masha and the Bear, which is
Yeah.
the propaganda, the main propaganda that's working to
Sit up,
save
sit up
Russia.
for a little bit. Soon you're gonna be completely underneath the screen. Yeah,
Ah, okay,
there we go. But listen, Jane, thank you very much for coming on.
no problem.
It was a very interesting conversation, like
It was a
before.
pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we should definitely do this again and maybe discuss something else entirely.
Let's do
But
it.
yeah, this conversation went almost everywhere, like it always does, but it was mainly as to what's happening right now with Russophobia and everything like that. Thank you again for being on the show.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
for
just on the
having me.
channel,
Thank
man.
you for having me. I hope that this video gets as many likes and comments as the previous one. And I'd be more than pleased to come on again in Russian or English.
All right,
Thanks for having me.
perfect. Thank you very much, and have a good
All
day.
right, everyone, have a good one.